Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of Thursday, 19 November 2015. There is a quorum present, and I'm calling this meeting to order. We're going to go around the table to make our introductions. I'm Carl Kenninger, President of the GTCA.
John Haig, Legal Counsel.
Barbara Drasha, Director.
Joe Purcell, Director.
Rich Fuente, Director at Large.
Richard Miller, Director.
Sabina Kota, Director. Art.
Segui, Director.
Frank Fittipaldi, General Manager.
On the agenda tonight, by consensus, we're going to change some of the order of business. The Treasurer's Controller's Report, which is 3.3, is going to move down to item 5.1, so we can go from the Treasurer's Controller's Report directly into the budget. The first order of business is the approval of the open meeting minutes of October the 15th, 2015.
Motion to approve the minutes from the October 15, 2015 PTCA Board of Directors meeting, open session as previously circulated.
I second.
Is the motion has been seconded? Is there any discussion? There appears to be no discussion. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
The motion is unanimous. We are approaching the holiday season now at the Galaxy. That means our holiday events will start with the tree lighting at 7:30 on November the 24th, which is a Tuesday in the Tower 2 lobby. We will have the Galaxy Singers, some surprises for the children. Our Galaxy gift giving will also start immediately after Thanksgiving. Bins will be placed in each of the lobby to pick up for the Divine Connections for non-perishable food, toys for tots, and a bin for pet donations that will be given to the Bergen County Protection Rescue Association, which is a no-kill shelter. This year there will be no clothing donations. Please note that the last pickup will be December the 17th, so get your contributions in early. On Wednesday, December the 2nd, the Intercultural Club is having a jazz songbook concert here in the lounge. The doors open at 7:30. And we also have the seniors party coming up on Tuesday, December the 15th. There are sign-up sheets on the desks. And one other thing to note, which you'll hear more of later, on December the 9th, here in the lounge, which is a Wednesday, we'll have a presentation of the hall restoration projects for the homeowners. Our first order of business now is the legal report.
The first item I want to report to you on is Airbnb. We had earlier in the fall written a letter to Airbnb alerting them to the restrictive scheme at Galaxy prohibiting rentals under 6 months in duration. They responded back with a bit of a form letter, but we were able to come back to them again, advising them as to the street addresses here so that, as I understand it, they will be able to flag listings at the Galaxy, or at least attempt to do so, so that people can be alerted of the restriction. With respect to contracts, we have reviewed and prepared revisions for a contract for IT with managed service offerings, and that's in shape for signature. With respect to Premier Energy and the auction and the contracts derivative of that, we've looked at the contract forms. We have provided comments to management, and we will be negotiating with Premier Energy and the supplier probably over the next couple of weeks to conclude that. One issue that was raised in October was the question as to whether or not there had been a referral of Premier Energy by a homeowner who was in fact an employee or had some type of business relationship with Premier Energy. Frank Fittipaldi and I got on the phone with their manager at Premier Energy, questioned him on that issue. We were advised that that this particular individual was not an employee. We put that inquiry in writing to them so that we could have a response back in writing, and we do have that response, which verifies that this particular individual was not an employee, a manager, a member, a trustee, an officer, or had any relationship of an economic nature with Premier Energy, so that we were able to bring that to closure. We've also looked at an extension contract with Planned Lifestyle, which I believe will be dealt with later in the evening, and we'll be making some revisions to that. I believe those are the items for discussion this evening. We're going to talk about the holding company form for units to be owned by the association, but I think you're going to put that on later in the agenda. So that concludes the legal report.
Are there any questions for council on this report? There appears to be no question. The council, we will now go to the general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, and Galaxy community. It's my pleasure to provide the following updates on projects and initiatives through the last 1 month period. On the hallway decorating project, the hallway decorating committee has held 6 meetings with our design partners, Mancini Duffy of New York, over the last 10 weeks to select design elements for the hallway project. To aid the committee in making its final decisions to be passed on to the board and community, a mock-up hallway section just outside the 16th floor management offices was recently completed to test their selections of carpeting, wall covering, lighting, and paint options. In the next week, the designers will present rendering boards to show those selected finishes and an alternate option for final committee approval. And next steps will be approval and presentation to the GTCA community in a town hall meeting, as the president mentioned, here in the Spa Lounge, scheduled for Wednesday, December 9th. The garage reconstruction project. Heavy construction continues on floor 11 and will continue to floor 10, which is anticipated to be completed by February 2016. That will close out heavy construction slated as phases 1 and 2, at which time heavy demolition work will be discontinued until the springtime, when traffic coding, line striping, and column painting will commence and close out all work slated for phases 1 and 2, which will end sometime around August 2016. Phase 3 schedules will be prepared around that time, which will carry through the floors 10 and 9. The projected schedule to date shows the project is advancing about 3 months ahead of schedule. This 3-year project to refurbish 6 levels of the garage was set up to be awarded in 1-year increments, with 2 levels to be reconstructed each year. Construction for the first year phase began in August 2014 and included heavy demolition and reconstruction of the 14th and 12th floors of the garage, to be followed by the recoating of the driving surface, line striping, and renumbering of the parking spaces. In April of this year, as heavy demolition of the first 2 floors was nearing completion, the board authorized the early award and commencement of the 2nd year phase of the project. This enabled the contractor to postpone the deck coating and line striping for the year 1 phase and continue heavy demolition without demobilizing, which moved the project about 3 months ahead of schedule and saved the Galaxy some $43,000 in costs. On the atrium glass project, this project is now 99% complete. Final caulking and sealing was completed earlier this week, and the glass will be cleaned tomorrow. Final inspection and acceptance is scheduled for next week. The HVAC project to replace 7 large heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units serving the spa and lower common hallways is now approximately 75% complete. 4 of the 7 new units have been started up, the first of which were the units servicing this room, the spa lounge, and the cardio room next door. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, the remaining units which service the tower's lower floors will be completed. Residents will immediately notice a significant improvement in fresh air ventilation and temperature comfort in those areas. Next steps are minor work needed to complete control wiring, manufacturer warranty test, and demobilization. The overall project is on target for completion in December. The pool atrium flat roof was replaced recently. It's 95% complete. To avoid the possibility of damages by the glass contractors who are now just finishing their work, installation of aluminum coatings and flashings was postponed until the completion of the glass project. Final inspection and acceptance is scheduled to take place on November 30th for the roof project. The pool roof structural inspection took place on November 5th. To explain, on Friday, October 16th, while the indoor pool was still closed for maintenance work, a small section of concrete roof deck dislodged and fell from the southeast corner of the indoor pool roof. I'm sorry, that's the northeast corner of the indoor pool roof. The area in question was immediately inspected by a structural engineer and secured with screen netting, pending a more detailed inspection. Other areas that needed to be inspected were above the pool and not accessible at the time. So on Thursday evening, November 5th, staff conducted an emergency structural inspection and engineer's evaluation of the entire indoor pool roof. And to avoid closing the indoor pool, the inspection was performed between 9 p.m. and 4:30 a.m. the next morning, personally supervised by staff, and the entire project consisted of 2 structural engineers and a crew of 6 to stage and move scaffolding inside the pool underwater so that we could get a 100% close-up visual inspection. The engineers performed sound tests and removed 2 small areas that had minor spalling. Fortunately, the necessary repairs are not immediately urgent and are recommended for the spring of 2016. Regarding the ongoing maintenance and repair of the boilers. Boiler number 2 has now been returned to full service and is fully operational. This boiler was dismantled sometime in late July and is now finally fully operational. Boiler 1 has now been taken out of service and is undergoing seasonal cleaning and repair in preparation for its annual inspection. A new water softener system was also installed this month. The system helps eliminate suspended solids from the incoming water supply for the boilers, which help increase heat transfer efficiency and prevent scale buildup and corrosion of the internal parts. Tower 2 elevators, automatic transfer switch. On November 6th, staff awarded a contract in the amount of $11,988 for installation of an automatic transfer switch, which was purchased sometime last year. The existing transfer switch is approximately 30 years old and not operational automatically, that is, and it will not automatically switch power from utility to emergency power during blackouts. Consequently, a maintenance employee must manually switch the power over at the time of a power failure. And this inevitably results in passengers being trapped in the elevators in Tower 2 for several minutes until power is restored. The specs for this work were developed by A&D Engineering, advertised and awarded to the lowest bidder. Permits are being filed presently. They expect the work to commence on 12/1. The actual work will take approximately 10 hours. And to minimize disruption to the residents in Tower 1, while the work is being performed, temporary power source will be barred from the rooftop air conditioner the evening before the work, is to be done. The total downtime will be approximately 2 hours the day before, or the evening before rather, and 1 hour the evening after the work is completed. Some work is being done in the common areas in front of the Galaxy Mall. Staff recently awarded a contract to Ganella Mechanical for $12,659 to replace 9 floor drains in the upper walkway of the mall, which were broken, cracked piping, and cracked drain sump bowls below. This caused significant damages to the ceiling below. The drain repair and replacements are now 80% complete. Completion is expected for November 25th, to be followed by repairs to the ceilings and soffits below shortly thereafter. Few updates on maintenance department initiatives in-house. The following tasks and preventive maintenance procedures were completed by in-house staff last month. Towers 1 and 2 steam hot water heat exchangers were rebuilt in the low zones. Staff fabricated, prepared, and installed a new condensate tank on the outdoor pool heater. This is a major component of the pool heater which cannot function without it. Pool filter room doors were replaced. New steam coils were installed in the vestibule heaters for towers 1 and 3. New steam coil was installed in tower 3 lobby HVAC unit. A new steam heater was installed in the S level, tower 3 in the south mechanical room. And a renewed effort to shift emphasis from reactive to proactive quarterly preventative maintenance was performed on all exhaust fan systems, HVAC units, and domestic water booster pumps. These are the kind of the back of the house things that we don't typically see and know that are happening. So I thought it was worthy to mention. The restoration team, it continues to make progress, improving the curb appeal of the Galaxy. Partial list of last month's accomplishments are River Road retaining walls have been painted, exterior holiday decorations have been installed, association rental units are now being prepared for marketing with extensive cleaning and paving, and caulking of plaza area flashings was also completed in the last month. The key fob audit. The key fob audit is substantially complete. On September 15th, letters were sent to all owners and tenants requesting that all key fobs be accounted for and re-registered. Key fobs had been issued over several years by the previous accounting department with no annual audit of defunct key fobs. The audit was necessary to ensure that only registered residents are privileged to enter the property through the garage without scrutiny. Accordingly, only 1 key fob is permitted per registered resident. The fob records in the computer system for all residents who turned in forms were updated and remained active. All other fobs not accounted for were deactivated on Tuesday of this week. And follow-up letters are presently being sent to about 60 residents who requested multiple key fobs. Unfortunately, those requests must be denied in order to maintain the security of those garage doors. Finally, an item regarding a few employees that I think deserve to be recognized, and it's my pleasure to recognize one of the newest members of the spa staff, lifeguard Tomas Rosado, for his attentiveness and quick response on Wednesday, November 11th, when a resident appeared to be in some distress while swimming in the indoor pool. Although the clues were very subtle and the resident did not request help, Tomas noticed the resident's expression showed signs of distress and acted immediately to call EMS and provide first aid until paramedics arrived. I'd also like to acknowledge employee Lori Mayernick of our maintenance department. She's our purchasing agent who happened to be in the area at the time and climbed into the pool fully clothed to assist. So hats off to those 2 employees for being on the ball. Thank you. And finally, before the board this evening are action items for award of 2 engineering services contracts. The first is a contract for engineering design services to replace the Galaxy steam boilers. Second, for a blanket annual contract for miscellaneous mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering services to be accessed on an as-needed basis throughout the year. That concludes my report.
Are there any questions from the board for the general manager on this report? There appear to be no questions. We're now going to move on to unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. Under the category of new business, the first item is the budget for 2016. To start this presentation off, we're going to have a report by the controller, followed by comments by the treasurer.
Good evening. I'm Al Manzo, and I'm going to be giving the financial report tonight. As of October 31st, we had total cash totaling $6,324,000, comprised of $4,758,000 of available cash and $1,566,000 of escrow cash. Of the available cash, $4,416,000 was in R&R, and approximately $200,000 was in the depository and operating accounts. Total available cash of about $4,758,000 as of October 31st represents an increase of available cash of approximately $94,000 as compared to September 30th. Total cash of $6,324,000 as of October 31st represents an increase of approximately $97,000 compared to September 30th. Total accounts receivable from homeowners as of October 31st is approximately $3,522,000. This is comprised of $48,000 0 to 30 days, $23,000 31 to 60 days, $24,000 over 60 days, $38,000 in payment plans, and $3,398,000 in legal. Total accounts payable as of October 31st is $893,000, which includes all invoices posted as of October 31st plus known accruals. Legal invoices account for approximately $69,000 of that. R&R invoices account for approximately $200,000 of that. Of that amount, $559,000 is 0 to 30 days due. $119,000 is 31 to 60 days due. $19,000 is 61 to 90 days due. And $195,000 is over 90 days due. Approximately 67% of that relates to disputed Slade elevator invoices. For the month of October, $333,000 of payments were made to Condo Cafe. As of November 6th, there were 627 owner occupants and 448 absentee owners. Of the 448 absentee owners, 379 were occupied by tenants. Units occupied by tenants represent approximately 35% of the total Galaxy units. The monthly financial package is currently available for October. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions from the board for the controller? There appears to be no questions. Thank you very much. I would like to turn to the treasurer.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming tonight. First, I'd like to take a quick update on our financial status for 2015 as we're now getting towards the end of November. Based off the year-to-date October financials, the operating fund now has swung to a surplus of approximately $142,000. The drivers of that surplus are $71,000 favorable on the contingency line item, about $36,000 in professional fees, approximately $35,000 of bad debt, and a net number of $29,000 in the administrative operating funds, which $49,000 of the surplus is driven by computer and payroll expense. That really is driven by the new accounting firm not relying so heavily on IT support. They've really reduced the times where they called him and he needed to come in. And they also worked with ADP to get a new system for the employees with their time cards, which is now automated, and in the process of that got us a reduced rate with that. The $49,000 savings was offset by the unplanned expense of approximately $20,000 for the 2015 election appeal costs. The other overage that we have is approximately $30,000 on energy overall, between energy and natural gas. Regarding energy, once again, the Galaxy survived another brutal winter with cash flow intact in the operating fund, as bills were paid on time through the year, even with the higher costs for January and February. So we were able to survive the winter and pay cash on time, again this year. Owners also have good things, I think, to look forward to as the hallway project takes off in the beginning of 2016. As a replacement of our older lights will be replaced with more energy efficient bulbs. There'll be energy savings, as well as the board working with an energy consultant to take advantage of the current environment with lower energy costs when our contract expires at the end of 2016, so that if we complete this correctly, there could be material savings in 2017 in the overall energy costs, which is one of the largest line items in the operating fund budget. So with 2 months remaining in the year and approximately $142,000 surplus in the operating fund, I feel pretty confident at this point we can end 2015 with another surplus for the second year in a row, unless there's any unforeseen circumstances that can pop up. This is a Galaxy, that does happen, but at this point in time, looking at forecasting through the future, we feel pretty confident. We once again have picked up our savings in the second half of the year. If you've been following the financials, with the seasonal timeliness and this board and management's discipline to manage costs to our budget. That said, tonight under other business, I'll be recommending for the bylaws to return the $186,000 surplus from the 24 operating fund to the owners as it was collected in 12 monthly installments beginning in January 2016 maintenance. Moving on to the 2016 budget, we'll get to the punchline first, since most people care about that. In the 2016 budget, there will be approximately a 1.6% reduction in maintenance. However, if the board approves the motion to return the surplus and the owners are credited on a monthly basis through 2016, the actual payment you'll be seeing is a 3% reduction in your maintenance year over year. To give some numbers towards the budget, the 2016 overall budget is $15,947,059 versus the 2015 budget of $16,198,091, so a $251,000 savings year over year. And the owner's portion of that budget is, in 2016, it'll be $12,885,712 versus a $13,091,417, so $205,000 savings in the actual part that hits your maintenance, excluding your parking fees or any storage that you have. So that's where that stands. Some of the highlights or comments towards the 16 budget: when the budget's distributed to homeowners this year, and as part of the operating fund, we tried to give more transparency and more detail. So when you're looking at the 2016 budget, you'll see line items broken out by what we're contractually obligated to and or what's considered non-discretionary, which means payroll and things like that. So it's not necessarily a contract, but we know we're obligated. So you're going to see a column for contractual, a column for discretionary, and then a total budget. So you can kind of see where, the difference and where we're fully committed to spend those funds. We've included a trailing 12-month total compared to the budget as well. So what we did is we used year-to-date October actuals for 2015, and then we laid in the November-December actuals from prior year, just so when you're comparing, you're kind of getting a full year with the seasonality view when you're comparing to the 2016 budget. Some comments on the operating fund. The board's worked diligently with legal and towards bad debt. Overall, the bad debt expense is coming down by 8% from 15 budget to 16 budget, from 541 down to 500,000. So it's a 41% increase. The 2014 actuals were 573,000. The 12-month running is 504, so that's a 12% reduction on that. So the arrears are starting to come down. as banks are starting to foreclose, people are able to sell their homes when they're underwater, and we can churn. The gas and electric, we're basically pretty flat. The 14 actuals were approximately 3.1, and the 12-month running is approximately 3.2. 15 budget was 3,183, 16 budget is 3,170, it's only a $13,000 difference. But I'll, remind you with the lighting and with if the board can work with this consultant and lower the cost, there's a potential, nice savings sitting there for the homeowners in 2017 for the energy. Other items, just smaller, through the budget, we did remove the contingency line. As we kind of worked with management and accounting to kind of hone in on those line items. So this year we did include some new items, like such as snow removal. We've had 2 brutal winters the past couple of years, so sometimes we have to pay employees overtime, and stay longer to remove the snow. So we have lines in there for snow removal. We have a line in there for insurance claims, so if claims are made, we can now, those will cover the deductibles for any insurance claims. Computer expense line, it now covers the additional expenses of the cloud backup the board approved and a new inventory system that's currently being implemented by the board, which I'm hoping will be live for 2016, so we'll actually have a real, on-time inventory system. And the board did leave additional money in there in case we need to upgrade Yardi. We've been informed by Yardi the version that we have is a little bit older, and eventually they may stop supporting that, which would force us. So we did include the money. Accounting said they could live with that system for another year or so, but it may not be our fault if Yardi comes, so we did leave the money in there. For the R&R was held flat from 2015 at $3 million. The board is working on several major projects, listing the garage, the hallways, the driveway, boilers and heat exchangers, and we've been working with engineers and working to get the most accurate estimates on these major projects so the board can manage the R&R cash flow and determine which projects are going to take priority and how to fund them through the current R&R. And that's the highlights or overview of the 2016 budget.
By the way, Justin Mag has joined the board.
Sorry for my tardiness.
We'll hold off discussion of the budget until we make a motion for the budget. When the motion is made and seconded, we'll have full discussion.
I make the motion to approve the GTCA 2016 budget in the total amount of $15,947,59 as detailed in the attachment here within.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Discussion. There appears to be no discussion. I'm going to call for a vote then for the approval of the budget. All those in favor of approving the budget, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. We're now going to continue on to the appointment of the auditing firm, which will also be done by the treasurer.
I make the motion to approve Becker, Delacorte, Ditko, and Company as the 2016 and 2017 audit firm in accordance with the engagement letter dated November 2nd, 2015, capped at $35,000 per year plus customary out-of-pocket expenses.
Is there a second? A second. I gave you a little bit of wrong information. It's really November the 3rd. I think that's my error. Is there any, I think also, if you will note, this is a reduction of 10%.
So with, this motion came by, as as we switched to outsourcing our accounting, the department has gotten cleaned up the audits. Either there were discussions with the audit firm to see if we can reduce the fee. The fee was reduced by 10% with the agreement of extending 2 years. So that's basically how this came about.
Any comments? Richard?
My comment is the same as last year. I feel that Becker Delatorre has too close a relationship with our accountant, Bob Stoller and Company, to perform the independent audit of the GTCA.
Are there any other comments?
I believe both partners of both firms have given the opportunities for the board to meet and discuss this. They're professional service firms. I would be very surprised if a public accounting firm is going to put their name and reputation on the line for a $35,000 account, to be honest with you. This firm came in, prior to this firm being here, we were getting qualified opinions year after year, which looks extremely poor when people go for mortgages. Neil Delatorre, who's a partner of the firm, explained to us and worked diligently his first year here to get the proper documentation that he needed to give us a qualified opinion. I think we've moved forward in the right direction. They're reducing their fees by 10%. I'm not sure what Richard is implying is wrong with this relationship, and if he'd like to say a little further, I think you're putting the reputations of two firms on the line in an open session, and I'd like to hear back up to what, his opinion is on this, because I think these two are two reputable firms, and, behind closed doors, we've had opportunities to discuss this, and, I just think that it has to be more than to say there's two close firms. I worked at Deloitte & Touche for approximately 3 years, and when I went on engagements, Price Waterhouse was doing consulting at the same client where we were doing audit. It's like any other industry. Everybody knows everybody in public accounting, the same way everybody knows everybody in the entertainment industry, the same way everybody knows everybody in the manufacturing industry, the same way the engineers that all bid here know each other for the jobs. Every industry is small, even though they may seem big. And I just think there has to be more documentation for a firm to say, to say that they're improper. They all sign documentation. They can lose their certification if anything is going wrong. And I just think there has to be more backup than just saying these two firms came in together at one point in time when they met with the board.
Richard?
I just feel, like I said, it's too close a relationship, so it's just out there, and because one company brought the other in. If there's an appearance, I'm just bringing it to the homeowner's attention. I'm not saying anything is done wrong. I'm just saying the appearance. Now, as far as when we had a qualified audit before, what was the reason we had a qualified audit? I believe previously we had a qualified audit because we didn't have an amount for replacement in the R&R. Is that correct? Okay. We were told by our previous auditors while we were paying off the loan, that was, we didn't need anything. Once the loan was paid off, we would start then to accumulate reserves. Previous boards, going back to 2006, made the decisions to take out the loans. We decided then in about 2009-10 to pay off the loan.
I think the homeowners need to understand that the unqualified opinion, or the qualified opinion, had absolutely nothing to do with the loan being paid off. The qualified opinion had everything to do with saying how much is the value of all of the common area elements that would need to be replaced, regardless of if you're paying for them today or you're not paying for them today. When a reader of the financials is looking at them, they need to be able to look and understand this is the total cost of your common elements The loan had absolutely nothing to do with why you would have gotten a qualified opinion or an unqualified opinion. It was the documentation that was disclosed in the notes to the financials that needed to have the R&R. It didn't matter if you were paying R&R or you weren't paying R&R. Any financial reader could see how much was going into the R&R, how much was going towards projects versus paying the loan. What the reader needs to understand is, what is the total cost of this R&R? So when I'm making an investment in purchasing a home here, how much is that? And how much is, and then they can do the math themselves to look at how much is being funded. So if they feel that it's being underfunded, they would know that as a purchaser. Being underfunded doesn't give you an unqualified opinion in your R&R. It's noting to the financials, this is your total cost. So when the new audit firm came in, they specifically said to the board, you need to address looking at what your common areas are, looking at your R&R, and build basically a model that covers all of the common area things that would need to be replaced in the R&R at any point in time, and come up with a quantifiable number so that when potential buyers look, they understand that. That was the difference between getting an unqualified and qualified. The outstanding loan had absolutely nothing to do with why there was an unqualified versus qualified opinion, at least from my understanding.
Wait, Richard, no. You're not recognized. Let Justin speak.
At first, I'd like to thank Joe for taking the time, explaining all that to the homeowners. I'm sure a lot of the homeowners had no idea of that, and I'm sure maybe even some of the board members had no idea of that. I'd like to say that I believe that the auditor did a fantastic job last year, and to make us unqualified, put us in a position where we actually could sell some of these units, it's a great feat, especially looking back 3 or 4 years ago. We were in horrible shape. And to get a chance to actually get a great audit firm like that and actually save more money on it in the future and keep our maintenance costs going down while raising our property values, I think it's a great benefit to the galaxy. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment before we go back to Richard? Richard, please.
I forgot after a while what I was going to say. Okay, just let it go.
Are there any other comments? If there are no other comments, I will call for a vote on the approval of the audit firm. All those in favor of opening the audit firm, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? One abstention, motion carries.
No, I
No.
I'm sorry.
I didn't even ask for abstentions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Opposed.
One opposed. Thank you. The next order of business is the authorization for the restoration team.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion for the authorization of a restoration team. I'd like to establish a restoration team comprised of 4 full-time temporary employees for up to 90 days at a total cost not to exceed $40,000 to be paid from the R&R fund. Said restoration team will be supervised by the Facilities Department.
I second.
Discussion? Richard?
I asked for scope of work before the original $65,000 was approved several months ago, but none was made available to me or didn't exist. I again requested, just today, a scope of work and a draft of expected expenses for labor and material. I cannot vote to approve additional money, no matter how good the cause is, for what is in reality just a sinking fund. I would not expect anyone with fiduciary responsibility to do so either.
Barbara?
Just to note that Director Miller has stated that it hasn't been specified labor costs. I believe the motion itself says not to exceed $40,000 to the labor. So that is specified. And in working sessions, to explain to the homeowners in working sessions, it's been explained to us that this restoration team repairs that aren't required more than once a year, that there are repairs that are overdue, such as painting, scraping, painting, cleaning, wherever it's needed, so that our home looks better. And it's been working out very well. We tried it for 90 days, and it's been working out well. And when we've compared it to what it would cost or approximate costs on contracting out these types of jobs, we're saving money, and we're saving money on labor and materials, and it seems to be working out great. There is no scope of work per se right now, but they are doing what is needed as it comes up, or as they have time for it, to make our home look better.
If I may, when I
Yes.
may,
Yes,
this is Arthur. First of all, I have lived in the building over 20 years, and the Galaxy has never looked better than it does now. The scope of work was outlined from the very beginning, maybe not in writing, maybe not to the liking of everybody, but it was outlined that they will do whatever is necessary to bring the facade and the different areas of the Galaxy to the state that it should have been done, but could not have been done because the amount of people that we had on staff were not sufficient, and those were fighting fires, daily fires, in their normal workday. So asking for anything beyond that seems to me just capricious. That's all.
Justin?
I personally think that the restoration team over a 90-day period did an outstanding job, something that was unforeseen prior to us voting on that. I do believe in one of their projects, they probably saved us all the money with the cost of contracting it out, just for repairing and painting the pergolas. Never mind whatever concrete work they did around the whole pool area, painting the pool area, probably would have cost them the same amount of money as what it would have cost to do the whole project. And
Why spend the money?
I can't see wasting any more of the Galaxy's money. And I really have to say, I mean, we're looking at decreasing our maintenance and improving our property values. That's basically what our fiduciary duties are, is to keep our maintenance costs down and improve our property. And to put a brake on it, to say, I don't like the way something is, I don't think that this is right, and you're actually stopping the homeowners from benefiting from living in this place. I can't see one reason why we wouldn't want to hire people to fix our property when the property is in despair. Thank you.
Richard?
In no way do I say that it doesn't look good. However, we need a way to measure what's being done. Barbara had said we saw the savings versus outside contracting. I don't remember seeing any savings. I would expect to see a spreadsheet. This is how much a contractor would be. This is how much would be in-house by the hour. Maybe it's good enough for some of you. I just think we need a little bit better record of actually, maybe it's the greatest thing, but we have nothing to compare it to.
Well, you put it together, Richard.
Richard, please.
Wait a minute, he mentioned my name.
You can mention your name, but you just wait a second.
Don't you?
Just wait a second,
What's the matter?
okay? Art should have been recognized, your name was mentioned, Justin is going to be next, you can go again. Justin, please.
Frank, could you please let the homeowners know how much the bidding project, the bid was for the painted pergolas just on the outside of
You
the
can
berm?
address your question to the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, President, can you please find out through the general manager what the cost was to just have the pergolas painted on the berm area that we had contract at Asper? Not the cap, and not the concrete caps, just the pergolas, to paint the pergolas on the outside of the berm. Not the ones in the park, just the ones on the berm.
I can't recall off the top of my head, but we did compile estimates for much of the work that was then subsequently done by the restoration team. And I can say with confidence that there was quite a bit of savings. I can prepare a report for the board to compare the cost of those items, or the estimates for those items, which came in an earlier R&R cash flow spreadsheet that we did a few months back before the restoration team was hired. So we do have the data. It just needs to be compiled and shown against the labor cost and material cost for the restoration team. So it is retrievable. I just don't know it off the top of my head. But I can say there was significant savings, yes.
Thank you.
Richard?
Thank you. Art, this is addressed to you. Maybe you.
Can I address him?
What?
Just make your point.
He said something, he said.
Just make your point.
I'm making the point. What do you have to interfere with it for?
Because
Art said maybe I would like to compare it. Maybe you are, and maybe some others were privy to the information. I didn't get that information. I never saw comparisons, how much it would cost to paint the pergolas or anything else. So, as often, I am excluded or information. I don't get all the information.
please.
So,
Sir
it
Helen,
seems like a lot of people here
Sir
know
Helen, please.
the cost. I never saw the cost.
Richard, we
Yes.
have discussed.
please, don't address.
Okay,
Hey,
sorry.
don't make this personal.
Yes,
Say
that's
what
what
you're going to say.
we discussed that in our working session. You know as much, I mean, Richard knows.
Maybe it's
as
good enough.
much-
Richard, please, you're out of order.
It's
Richard,
not good
you're
for
out of
you to make
order.
a decision.
Richard,
Yeah,
that's the hell of it.
But I don't know what is the effect of that camera that changes the whole thing. Everything that has been discussed in the working session, all of a sudden,
Never
it's gonna be
detail.
forgotten by some directors.
Barbara?
Truth hurts, I guess.
I'd like to thank Frank for his information and just reiterate that I can recall off the top of my head being in working sessions that everyone attended, all the directors attended, where we were given estimates for things such as the painting of the pergolas, and I remember specifically the concrete, I don't know what you call it, the concrete on the front, where the lights are standing on the front of the building, because we thought that was a danger. And
the concrete on the indoor.
Mark, please.
And it was, you can consider those amounts and look at what we paid for the 90 days. And it's completely, you don't need a spreadsheet to tell you that you saved money. And it was at a working session that all directors attended.
I hope, before we make, let's make this new comments rather than, okay? Wait.
I just want to
Already
say,
making those.
I think this is one of the best projects that happened at the Galaxy. This team is nimble. On rain days, they're inside. On nice days, they're outside. I believe that these apartments that they're fixing is going to turn into revenue quicker because of them. So if we can rent these out quicker than we would have at a less expensive cost, this is money in every single homeowner's pocket. From what I'm hearing from Frank and from the board, other members of the board, they never complain. They're willing to do whatever they're asked, and they're aggressive. And I believe they're changing the culture and environment of the building as a can do versus a maybe not want to do. I think it's really been a positive influence, and to see this change, I think as people come here and see our property, I think it's just overall just a positive vibe around town.
Mr. Helen, would you like to make a motion?
I make a
I'd like to
motion
say
for
one.
the question.
Is there a second?
Exactly.
Questions called. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand to say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There's one opposed, the motion carries. The next order of business.
We have to vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not calling for a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, opposed to the motion? The motion carries. Excuse me for my error. The next order of business is engineering for replacement of boiler, heat exchangers, and control.
Motion to award a contract to ONS Associates of Hackensack, New Jersey to provide engineering analysis, design, and contract administration for replacement of boilers, heat exchangers, and associated controllers in the amount of $58,500 plus 10% for contingencies for a total contract amount of $64,350. This authorization is contingent upon the contract for same specifying that the bid.
Building place.
The what? The build in place, well, what is it? The specs have to include the build in place option, right?
Is there a second? Motion is seconded. Discussion? There appears,
Maybe I would just ask Frank through the chair if he could just explain a little bit about what this, the three options
Yes,
and what this company is going to do for us.
The work on this engineering service will be done in a number of phases. The first phase will be an analysis of three potential options for replacing the boilers. Option one would be to replace them in kind with two low-pressure steam boilers of approximately the same size. Option two would be to replace the boilers with three smaller boilers that would operate in a lead-lag configuration. And the third option would be, and it hasn't been defined, would be some other creative solution such as microturbines or a different type of boiler and heat plant configuration. And for the engineering companies to provide bids on three options, which would require a different amount of effort and work to complete design and drawings, it was beneficial to request the bids for the three options to get three different numbers. So the low bid was ONS Engineering, and they bid $45,600 for option one, replacing kind, $49,400 for option two, $58,500 for option three. And that would be the worst case scenario in terms of the cost to design the new boiler system. Of course, we don't know which option it would be yet because the board would not make that decision until after the initial evaluation by the engineer and presentation to the board of the options, at which time the board would select which one to design. So that's why the three options. And if we had not done it this way, then certainly the engineering firms would have had to cover themselves for their risk of the worst possible scenario. So we might have paid the high number, $58,000, and then not selected that option, and thereby wasting money. So the request for the board to award or authorize this award at the high number is the worst case scenario, and we're likely to select option one or two in the end. However, that's to be determined.
any additional comments? There appear to be no additional comments. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. The next is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering task order contract.
Motion to authorize the award of a contract to O&S Associates of Hackensack, New Jersey to provide mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering for a 12-month period on a task order basis in the estimated amount of $50,400, or an amount not to exceed $50,400.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
difference of what we had and what we're doing now, if you could, and do you have the hourly basis in front of the hourly that I can include that? I'll just, if everyone doesn't mind, I'll include that hourly rate in the motion without going through the formalities of amending. Thank you.
Yes, of course. This is a request to authorize a contract in the theoretical amount of $50,400 or an estimated amount of $50,400. It's a blanket annual task order contract for engineering services as needed on an on-call basis for a myriad of possible projects such as energy efficient lighting, evaluation of mechanical equipment failures, recommendation of repair protocols, water infiltration investigations, and the like, for mechanical, electrical, or plumbing engineering services from a firm that's capable of providing all three. Without knowing what the individual projects would be throughout the year, we solicited 6 area engineering firms to provide us with hourly rates for classifications such as senior engineer, project manager, professional engineer, architect, a field inspector, CAD operators, and the like. And we estimated total annual hours for each one of those classifications. Again, that's all theoretical, but that's the way we determined who the low bidder was among the firms that bid. 6 engineering firms were solicited, 4 returned comprehensive and competitive bids that were consistent with the requirements of our RFP. And so the low bidder with hourly rates that were multiplied against the estimated hours that we predicted was O&S Engineering again. The hours total 50,400. So for senior project engineer, the loaded hourly billing rate was $165. For professional engineer architect, $145. For field inspector, $125. CAD operator and/or administrative support staff, $75 per hour. And for the production of full-size plans and blueprints, 75 cents per page. These figures against our estimated hours and quantities total $50,400.
Are there any additional comments? There seem to be no comments. Before we vote on this motion, all those in favor of this motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, non-abstention, it's unanimously passed. We're now going to move on to the election rules. And the election rules is a somewhat complicated document. The election rules themselves are about 16 pages long. What the election committee made certain recommendations to change the election rules, which have been incorporated in the document sent to all the board members. There only are about 4 significant changes, which we will vote on individually. There are some other changes that are just part of the text, and at the end of this, we'll vote accept and move on. Some of those changes that are non-controversial is the election date would be Wednesday, March the 2nd. The petition dates would be available on December the 7th. The return dates for the petition are December the 28th. The certification of the candidates are December the 31st. The first big change, and we'll have a motion on this, is the elimination of rules that provide for the placement of candidates' literature in the copies of the town lobbies and at a small level.
Do you know what section it is, or can I just?
It's
Page
it's
8,
section
page 8, section 3.
Section 6 campaign literature. It calls-
No,
Page section 3 is not.
it's,
It's page 8, right?
it's page 8. Page 8, section 7, distribution of ballots.
No, it's not
Oh, that-
distribution.
It's
It's elimination of the
8
paragraph.
about the full.
No, it's not.
It's page 8, section 8.
I think it was paragraph 3.
Yeah, section 8, paragraph 3.
What it is
8B3. I think it's it.
page 4, right? It talks about striking the paragraph says, G2 so-called campaign literature be distributed in the initial and sequence and mailing to be posted in the copies specifically designated for that purpose
Fine.
and placed on the concierge desk in the tower lobbies outside the spa in order in which the gambling literature will be placed is determined by lottery. The candidates will be responsible for providing sufficient copies of the campaign literature. Campaign literature initially placed in the copies may be replenished. And then in the next paragraph, any candidate who wishes to have additional campaign literature placed in the lobbies shall first submit such materials to the election coordinator for review of the literature and compliance.
Okay, so, motion to, delete the provisions in the rules that were circulated found in section Roman numeral 6, that allow for, placement of candidate literature in the cubbies, in the lobbies, and in the spa lounge.
Is there a second? Motion is second. Discussion? Appears to be no discussion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes. All those opposed? All those abstaining? The motion carries. Yes. The next change is the question of where you can campaign. And what we would strike out entirely is from section 8, it says all permitted campaign activities may be conducted in the following common areas of the Galaxy Tower, lobbies, elevator, lobbies, hallways, walkways, and plazas. In place, we would put permitted campaign activity may take only place in the raised seating area of the tower lobbies, including the in-person distribution of campaign literature. The number of individuals that may be present in any one lobby is limited to 2 representatives, including the candidate, if he or she is present. At those times that a representative is present, the lobby seating area, a flyer may be placed on the concierge desk indicating that the candidate or his representative candidate is present and available in the seating area. There's a further modification. Okay.
I'm sorry,
And there's a further modification, if you want to include it, that allows for campaigning in the lobbies for 1 week before the election, I believe, in areas of the lobbies that include the, excuse me.
But now that's not, so, no, but we have one proposed revision that says only campaigning up in the raised
And
areas.
then it goes on, would be added, except in the areas, except for 1 week before the election.
Until February 23rd.
In the campaign, in the lobby areas, excluding the elevator lobby and the area of the mailboxes and the area in front of the receiving desk.
And from my version just didn't print out with the red, the changes, so I'm gonna make a motion to change the election rules section as just read by the president. And then after someone seconds it, I'll just explain it a little bit, so everyone understands.
It's seconded. Robert?
Okay, I'm not quite sure, when someone, it's sometimes difficult when we're reading it, what I understand the change to mean is that any campaigning that's going on has to be up in that raised area of the lobby. You're not allowed to campaign in other areas of the lobby like as was done in the past. But it's limited to the candidate and one additional person. Those new rules will be suspended a week before the election, and we set the date, and during that time, essentially you could be on the right half of the lobby, so you could be in the lobby area and stop people coming in, but you can't be by the mailboxes because some homeowners and residents, some of us feel a little harassed and feel like they can't get away from candidates if they want to. So people can go get their mail, they can get their packages without being, if they don't want to be bothered by the candidates, they don't have to be, but the candidates are free to be in that lobby area and try to speak with some people if the people are willing.
Any comments? Question?
You want to wait till the end, or can I give my comments?
This is it? Now, this is it?
This is it, whatever.
Make a comment.
Since approximately 2007, Galaxy saw significantly broadened areas where campaigning was permitted. The election committee reported, and Barbara just reported also, some people might have been annoyed by campaign activity in the lobbies. Well, democracy isn't always without problems. Previous to 2007, campaigning was limited in 1 or 2 years to the seating areas, but nobody knew about it and virtually nobody showed up. Well, candidates' campaign literature is sent in the first mailing with the ballots. Well, we started to talk about campaign literature. It's not going to be in the covers. Can I speak about that?
You can, but it's already been voted on.
Okay. Well, candidates' campaign literature is sent in the first mailing with the ballots, and there's another follow-up mailing with candidates' campaign literature. This will actually limit owners' awareness that the election period is underway, and so too with not being able to stand in the lobby, thereby holding down voter turnout. When campaigning will be permitted after February 21st, many voters have already returned their ballots by then. I disagree with the voices behind this move to limit awareness of the election.
Barbara?
I'm going to make a motion to amend, to incorporate and approve the changes as we discussed, except for the provision of limiting the number of people. That I move to amend the motion to strike the portion that limits it to a candidate and only one other person.
Is there a second? There's a second discussion of the amendment. Justin?
So we're gonna leave it limitless? Is that what you're recommending, to leave it limitless? So that means that I could campaign with 100 of my friends up in the lobby? I'm not sure, is that, are we gonna just leave it limitless?
You can make the,
How was the motion read?
Not more than 50?
yes?
The way I'm amending it, I'm not going to put a limit on it because I don't think there has been a limit in the past, and I know there's been a number of people, but I don't think we've had an issue with way too many people, especially if we're limiting where we can stand. I just feel people, one, the candidates don't always have control over who wants them to be elected, and if people want to campaign for somebody, as long as they're not, stepping over the bounds and bothering people, I think they should be able to do so.
Additional comments? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote on this amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That's for
We're voting on,
the amendment.
Whether we're going to amend it.
All those opposed to the amendment?
All right, so wait, me, Justin, Bill, Clinton, Richard?
Yeah.
And Art.
this is the amendment
To strike the portion of limited.
limit, okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, the motion is amended. Okay. Now, is there any more discussion of the motion itself? Justin?
The motion is going to have literature in there that candidates cannot, even though when we...
Are you asking a question?
The question, I'm sorry, the question for what we're going to vote on is that the candidates have to stay on top of the lobby area until a certain date prior to the election, and then after that, they cannot go up to the side of the lobby that where the
Like
mailbox is. So
packages or the mailbox.
right, so they have to stay on the opposite side of the, thank you.
That's correct. Are there any other comments? I'm going to call now for a vote. A vote on the amended motion. All those in favor of the amended motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? The motion carries.
Does it carry? So,
Yes?
so Hal, you abstained? I just want to try to get everybody's
Yes.
vote. For, what, Richard, I'm sorry, what was your?
Yes.
Joe, yours. Okay.
The next change would be the recommendation for candidates. Last year, one of the candidates was unable to attend. There was some discussion what a candidate could do in candidates night if he couldn't be there at the meeting. There is a proposal that the election coordinator could be given certain guidelines on what a candidate could do. I think we had that language, I believe.
You have the one with the rest, I don't know why the red didn't print that one.
I don't know, but I believe we spoke about not leaving it to the election coordinator.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion, you can make a motion to, all right, so motion to revise section Roman numeral 12, in the existing rules, to state that if a candidate is unable to be present on candidates' night, the election coordinator will make the decision to make the decision as to that candidate's participation in candidates' night to the degree and limitations on which a representative, will make the decision to the degree and limitations on which a representative of or the candidate may participate. I lost.
Is there a second? Second, any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to let the homeowners know that this was a recommendation from the election committee, right? This had nothing to do with me, that I was not at the candidate's night, and I was told by the election coordinator that I would be able to get a Skype, and yet I wasn't allowed to because some people protested. And I just wanted to make sure the homeowners knew that this is not my recommendation, that I didn't say anything, I took it on the chin, and I still won the election. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in, Richard?
We had discussed not leaving it to the election coordinator, so I'd like to amend this. And I think that the board should recommend the rules, because it says here, the election coordinator will make the decision to the degree and limitations on on which a representative of the candidate may participate. I don't think it should be left to the election coordinator. I think the board should settle that. Either we're going to allow someone to read it or not.
I had drafted that language, changing language at the election committee originally put in that I thought was somewhat awkward. I think the problem, Richard, is you have this circumstance coming up at the election night, and someone has to have the ability to make a determination at that point. So either you're going to create a set of rules right now that deal with it, or you're going to posit in the election coordinator as a third party neutral the ability to establish a protocol for that to happen. So it's my recommendation that you do let it stay with the election coordinator, and I think that's consistent with our arbitration scheme in the rules itself.
Richard?
But I'd like to see ahead of time, we still have time, we can always prove that section afterwards, what the protocol would be. Not just leave it to them, maybe it's something the board doesn't like or intend.
May I make a suggestion now that we can pass this language to say the election coordinator can do it, and then revisit the situation that has been practiced in the past. We have 2 months now before this will come up, and we can revisit this again. And so on that basis, I would ask for a vote to approve the language as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? And then the last section here, and I may have to ask John to step in here because the printing on what we have here is red and very small. Is the really question, the general thing is, how is the arbitrator determined, how is parties to an arbitration determined? And the suggestion is that all the elements of the galaxy, like the board, the election committee, the arbitrator, not the arbitrator, the coordinator, all would be considered one party to an arbitration. The people bringing the arbitration, bringing the claim as individuals, would be considered other parties. And that really leads to how you split the arbitration costs. The recommendation that has been before the board is that in the past we've split the arbitration 30-70 if the Galaxy was a party. The proposal now is to have the losing side, the losing party, pay for all the arbitration costs. John may want to explain a little better than I can.
I hadn't heard until today that you would, people had thought to change this to what we call an English rule, which the prevailing party wins and the loser has to pay. And that is something that I would recommend that you not do. There was a Supreme Court case which came down last December, Dubler, the 2000 Linwood Avenue owners, and although it doesn't address this specific type of issue, what it addresses broadly is the conduct of elections. And the state Supreme Court is very specific that there cannot be unreasonable or oppressive conduct on the part of private entities, such as common interest housing communities, in the conduct of their elections. My concern is that by adopting an English rule after you have had a sharing rule for many, many years that has apparently been successful, that it would appear to be, to a court, an oppression of people and an effect, chilling effect on the election process. I can't point you to a case that would say it would absolutely fail. I am not entirely comfortable that it's defensible.
All right, so let me try to, I'll make a motion to revise the election rules, the arbitration provisions of the election rules to specify that each candidate constitutes a party for purposes of arbitration, and the Galaxy, its legal counsel, constitute one party for purposes of arbitration, and that the arbitration costs be divided 50-50. Divided equally among the parties.
Is there a second?
No, I wanted to ask a question.
Okay, just, could you second, let Barbara speak first. And then
Second?
Yeah, sir.
Second, do you want to, any further comment, Barbara?
No, let me.
Justin?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question to legal about what you just said about if the losing party had to pay the full cost. What if there was a losing party that had to pay a majority of the cost?
I think it's an element of proportionality. I think certainly you could skew it. Where there's no bright line, Justin. That's the problem with it. I think when you have what appears to be a clean formula, it makes a little bit more sense, and someone looking at that is going to say, yeah, that's fair. So what Barbara just described is if there's one objector candidate and there is the election committee, the Galaxy on the other side, then there are two players, and it would be split 50-50. If there are two candidates who object, you then have it a third. If we're in a situation where we have a fourth candidate, the fourth candidate didn't participate, didn't object or raise the arbitration, but chose to join in the arbitration, then he would be a party or she would be a party, and you would split it 25, 25, 25, 25. And I think that is a clean look, an elegant look, if you will. It's understandable, it makes some sense. When you start skewing things, you get over towards the issue that I'm raising, which is there an intent to oppress, to suppress an individual's ability to seek redress with an arbitrator?
Additional comments? Richard?
I still think because the Galaxy would have deeper pockets, usually, many times than a candidate, you're still suppressing what might be a valid reason for an arbitration. So I think we currently have 30-70, candidate pays 30%, and Galaxy 70%.
Just a question through the chair to legal. So last year was an at-large. Let's go to if it's per individual tower. I just want to be sure I understand the process. So there's an appeal in Tower 1, there's an appeal in Tower 3, two different appeals, two different bases. Would that be then considered two separate appeal processes? And if it was 50-50, 50-50 for the Galaxy and the person appealing in Tower 3, 50-50 for the person appealing in Tower 1?
I think that's going to be up to the arbitrator as to whether the arbitrator treats it as two separate arbitrations or consolidates it. If he consolidates it, then it's just the total number of parties. If he or she determines that the circumstances of each one are so unique that separate arbitrations are necessary, then you would break it up per arbitration.
Additional comments? There appears to be no additional comments. Going with the vote on the motion. Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstaining? The motion carries. I think we're now at the point where we can adopt the election rules.
Okay, motion to adopt and approve the election rules for 2016 as previously circulated, except with the changes that the board has just gone through and approved.
Any discussion? A second. Second discussion?
No, I didn't have any discussion.
I still disagree with the, as I said before, because limiting the campaign activities, I just think it hurts the whole election process.
Any other comments? Yes.
Second.
There appears to be no other comments, then all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? The motion carries. The next order of business is the appointment of committee members, which I think should be reasonably straightforward. The SPA committee chairman has made a recommendation.
Motion to approve Meredith Benitsky as a member of the SPA committee.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, signifying aye. I believe it's unanimous. Garage committee, this is a little bit different because we're appointing both the member and the chairperson, the same person.
Motion to appoint and approve Richard De La Fuente as a member and the chairperson of the garage committee.
Second discussion. Richard?
May I, or can I ask you a question to ask counsel?
What?
Yes.
Yes, question.
Yes, there is a question. This doesn't go, it's nothing personal, but we have rules, and I don't think having a board member being a member of a committee is how it's supposed to work.
It's not against the rules.
It may not be against
It's
the
not
rules,
against the rules.
but I would like to hear council's
This is not an, this is,
justification for,
council does not have to give justification for
well,
what
I'm asking.
you're
I
asking.
want to know. It's
This is not a question.
usually hardly ever done.
It's been done here, it's been done on two committees here.
Yes, because we changed the
This
committee
is,
rules.
this is not,
We
this is
changed the committee rules.
not, you didn't change the committee rules. The
For
committee
what?
rules-
Land use you changed?
We changed the committee rules for land use from
Okay. When's the other time it was done?
Art is the chairman of the facilities committee.
I don't ever remember that being voted on.
Oh, yes, you were at the meeting.
This,
Look it up and let me know.
this is not a legal question. Any other?
I just wanted to say, I think Richie's gonna make a very good chair at the garage committee. He's very involved in the building. He's done an amazing job since he's been on the board, with hard work and pitching in and anything that's been thrown at him and offering to help with things and him, Justin, really got up to speed in no time and I think they made a great difference in this. And I think there's a big opportunity for potential revenue in the garage and other areas and I hope that, you know, this board has more time and that those will come to fruition too. But I think he'll make a great member and chair of that committee.
Any other discussion? All of us on the call for.
I'd like to echo everything that Joe just said, thank you.
We call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Seniors Committee.
Motion to appoint and approve Glenn Fuzel and Rita Kaler as members of the senior committee.
There's a second discussion. There appears to be no discussion. Richard?
I thought that there were other members propose to this
Well, that,
committee.
If you wish to amend the motion, or make a motion.
I'm just asking a question. Were other names sent by the committee for approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other comments, sir?
Yes, who are those names?
You know, I'm not going to, you know the names as well as I.
Well,
If you would like to make a motion for those people to be on the
I
committee,
think that it's becoming a terrible practice around here. If you don't, certain people don't like other people that are being denied membership in committees.
thank you. Is
It's
there
not
any
the
other-
first time, and I've also heard about age discrimination also.
Are there any other, Richard?
I'm-
Richard, do you have a motion to make? Do you have a motion to make? Do you want to amend the motion?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Okay? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand to signify. Yes, all those opposed? Aye?
Yes.
Okay, all those opposed? The motion carries.
You didn't ask.
Okay.
you're
And I'm
abstaining?
through. I'm saying,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought
Okay.
you voted no. I'm sorry. Now, that concludes the business on the agenda. We have at least two more items of new business.
Sorry.
Motion to return to the homeowners the surplus from the 2014 operating fund, less any deficit in the 2015 operating fund, to be credited to homeowners in 12 equally monthly installments beginning in January 2016.
Motion is seconded. Comments? There appears to be no comment. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We have at least one more piece of business then. I believe we have.
Oh, the items.
The holding.
Motion to authorize the board president to sign the operating agreement of the GTC Holdings LLC as circulated to all directors and previously discussed.
Motion is seconded. I think it's appropriate now for council to make a short explanation of what this is.
As part of our ongoing collection efforts, we have started to get to the point where we are getting to some sheriff sales of judgments held by the Galaxy, and which result in the Galaxy acquiring title to units. As a safety precaution and to create an insulating level of liability with respect to claims that may arise out of the use or occupancy of those units, I've recommended forming a separate holding company, which we call GTCA Holdings LLC, to be the title holder of those units, so that that company would rent them, hold title to them, collect the rents, pay the common expense assessment on that unit out of the rents. Any profits would be upstream to the association. Ultimately, if the units are sold and if there's any cash proceeds at that point in time after paying off mortgage liens or whatever, those proceeds would upstream to the association. The association would be the sole owner. In order to effectuate that, there's a filing with the Treasurer's Office, which is called a certificate of formation, which we have already done. And then there is a business agreement called an operating agreement, which sets forth the rules and regulations of the particular company and how it is managed. The agreement that we've set up would be signed by the president of the association as the sole owner, and sole member of GTCA Holdings LLC, and it appoints the general manager, Frank Fittipaldi, as the manager of the holding company, for purposes of executing leases, collecting rents, and so forth. And he can act pursuant to this agreement only with the approval of the board of GTCA, the association board, by resolution.
Any questions for council or comments?
I just wanted to note to the owners, this is what we were referring to with the restoration crew going in, to these units and cleaning them up with floors, painting, getting them ready as quickly as possible to turn around and start getting income to the galaxy versus potentially either having to go and contract somebody to do it and or take our in-house staff to potentially go away from the normal course of business and have to do it. So I think this is a win-win for the galaxy. Hopefully, we get some rental income, or potentially, as things get better, we can turn around and sell them when the values here go up and make some money, or at least get unit owners in here that are paying their maintenance.
Any other comments? Justin?
I just wanted to also say that I think it's great that we're getting some of these units off of a negative and putting them into a positive. This is the major thing is we're actually paying for these units, and now the units will be paying for themselves. I mean, I think it's a great thing for the galaxy. We're moving forward, and we're going to be at the same time lowering everyone else's maintenance, because every dollar that goes into the GPC is one less dollar the homeowner has to put into the GPC.
Please, let's
Thank you.
relate to the motion.
Call the question.
Does anybody else have a comment? No one else has a comment? I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Is there any other new business? If there's no new business, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good night, Art.